Wow, essentials for a dynamic organization. Let me think here. But I'm going to tell you one thing as I start with this. This is going to be more than a one-part video. I mean, we're trying to keep these between 5 and 6 minutes. Hang with me here because this is probably a three-part or even a four-part video. Because in essence, you're asking the question, how does an organization maintain its vitality after it launches or after it moves a new direction? Or how do you make sure you stay on mission after launching? So here's what I know. There's no organization guaranteed perpetual success, none. I've been involved with businesses and corporations and churches and direct sales organizations for over 42 years. And over that time, if I go back 42 years ago and I list all the companies that were the top 5 or 10 at 42 years ago, you're going to find a majority of them are not there today. I don't care what that field is. They're gone. Why? Because over time, changes occur. Over time, changes occur. Erosion sets in. I'm going to set this up by talking about what I think are the importance of creating a dynamic organization and some of the essentials by telling you a little story. I do a lot of work with the Chamber of Commerce, a lot of work. I love working with the Chamber of Commerce. I love to go in and talk to people in the Chamber of Commerce. I love to go in and train them because they're businessmen and women that have a dream and they want to make their businesses work. But when I go in, a lot of times I'll ask this question. I'll say, hey guys, tell me, what does it take in order to be successful in a business? If you were starting your business today, what are some of the things you need? And they'll tell me they need a financial plan, they need a business plan, they need capital, they need a relationship with their banker, they need inventory, they need furniture, fixtures, equipment. They go on and on and on with what they need employees. But yet I've never had one ever come back and start by saying, you've got to develop a good, strong culture if you're going to win. And I can understand that because Harvard Business Review here recently said that even though the majority of organizations and corporations understand they need a culture, they really don't understand it. They really don't know how to get their hands around it. They don't know what to do to set one up. Most companies believe that if you move some furniture around and break the walls and have a more of an open office effect, that's a culture. Or if we bring in pizza at lunch, that's a culture. Or if we go after work and we go play golf or whatever, that's building a culture. Now, I'm not putting any of those things down. I think all of them are necessary. But that again tells me that people don't really understand what a culture is and what you need to understand what a culture is. See, write this down. A culture is the spirit of the people. It's the spirit of the people within that organization, and it must be fed and it must be nourished daily. If not, erosion occurs. I had a ranch Kay and I did in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a beautiful ranch, still there today. If you're ever in Tulsa, drop me a note and I'll tell you how to go by and take a look at it. Just beautiful. Has all white fences around it. At Christmas, we'd light it up. We had this little red barn, and we'd light it up. And I mean, we had all the Santa Clauses and everything out there. It's really cool. But over a period of time, I had this big oak tree down by the creek. And what I noticed was over a period of time, my land from that creek kept getting closer and closer to that oak tree. In essence, what was happening, erosion was coming in. And I had to go get over $1 million worth of riprap to put into that creek. I mean, it was crazy because it's a big old creek, right? But we had to stop that erosion. Well, see, that's what can happen with organizations and corporations if you don't set up a strong culture. See, what will happen, here's the silly thing about erosion. It's slow, it's silent, and it's subtle. And that can happen with any organization. And I believe that's why the majority of the companies 42 years ago that are not here today, that's what they've fallen prey to. So what's number one if you're going to have a dynamic organization? What's the essentials? Number one is a culture. You have to have a culture driven by vision and values. A vision to live for and values to die for. That vision has to be so big it scares you, man. It keeps you in front of people all the time, sharing that vision. You've got to continue to feed that vision in front of the people. See, if not in front of them, it will become lost. That vision becomes lost. They keep the mechanics of work, but they forget why they're working. That mission is not there. That vision is not there. I a lot of times go into companies that'll retain me, and they'll ask me to come in and help them with the development of their people. And I'll go in, and I always like to start with the receptionist. I love a receptionist. They're kind of, they let you know what's really going on. And I asked this one receptionist one time, I said, what's your mission statement here? She said, I have no idea. I have no idea. Well, the reason I asked her that was because behind her desk was the mission statement of that company. Well, see, that's the same way, the same thing that can happen if you don't keep that vision in front of people. A vision becomes the heart. The vision keeps you alive when you want to quit. A vision keeps you alive when you're not sure if you're going to make it. That vision keeps you alive when you're down and out. And we all go through that as we're building organizations and corporations and churches or whatever it is. So number one, in this culture, it's got to be driven by a vision. And number two, it's got to be driven by values. Values you're willing to die for. Values you're willing to die for. In other words, have some values so strong in your organization or corporation that people can understand that they can believe you, that they can trust you, that they can accept what you say as you move forward. These values are imperative. The values have to be so strong that when you hire people and you fire people, it's by the values. When you recruit people, it has to be part of the values. It's got to be like a sifter, where you're dropping people through this sifter to make sure that those values are met. It becomes a filter, maintaining a positive culture. Because if you do not keep those values in front of people, then you're going to be bringing people in that don't fit your values, which then creates the erosion that I was talking about, where the organization starts becoming a little negative, or you get people in that might think more of themselves than they do their organization. 4 years ago, I had a wonderful opportunity to become an equity partner in a $300 million company with a couple of outstanding partners. We came in on the backs of a couple of other equity groups that had already come in and tried to do something with this company without any success. Well, my first responsibility was to come in and take the company, the internal employees, and work with them, about 300 employees in the local location, and start working with them on our new values, who we are, where we were going, and what our values were. Well, I met with them for several months, and I kept talking about our vision, where this company's going, and our values, where they're going, and I wanted people to really internalize those values. So what I did, I got some business cards made, and I had them put it on the back of their card, where your card when you go into a company, you've got these big, I don't know what you call them, where you scan them and you get in and out of the door, whatever it might be. And so I put these little business cards on the back. So when I'm walking down the hall, I'd come up to somebody and I'd say, hey, what's our values? We had 5 values, still have those values. And I asked them the values, and bam, 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 they would tell me. I wanted them to memorize those values. I wanted them to understand those values. Those values are important to our organization and to our corporation. When we hire people, it's by the values. When we let them go, it's by the values. When we look at whether or not we're going to advance them, how are they fitting into those values? And it's the same with all organizations, all corporations. And my question to you, as you're building this or trying to build this dynamic organization, the number one essential is you've got to line up with creating a culture where it's driven by values and vision. It's essential for a dynamic organization to be set up that way. It has to be started with number one, culture. Folks, that culture sets people up where they feel safe. They feel safe that they can perform. They feel safe where they can go out and try and fail, but know that they can try again because that culture is safe. So, number one, as we move forward on these segments here on the essentials for a dynamic organization, make sure you're feeding that culture. You're feeding the spirit of your people.